The next counselor is A.C. Jackson, Associate Dean of Students and Director of the Career Planning Center at Colgate University in New York, author of How to Prepare Your CV.
Good morning. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Good. I understand you want to talk a little bit about some of the plans you have for the future. I wonder if you could share with me a little bit about your background.
Plans that I have. Well, the plans that I have are not clear. That's why I want to talk to you.
Ah, I see.
So the plans are not definite yet.
Okay.
But I'm asking for your help because I'm looking for some direction.
Yes.
I work in the cable television industry.
Yes.
And I've been doing that for about 8 years now, which is since I've graduated from college. This is the only work after college that I've had thus far.
Yes.
I've been able to progress up the little ladder at my company, and I've done well, and I've enjoyed it.
Yes.
I currently manage a group of sales and marketing people, and I like it a great deal. But I've been doing it for 4 years now, and maybe a year and a half ago, I began to think that it may be time to do something else. I think that because I've never really gone through an evaluation period from the time that I graduated. This company kind of fell into my lap, so I never really went through assessing what it is that I could possibly be doing. And the cable television industry was the industry of choice at that time because I was a major in communications. So I've enjoyed it a lot. I still enjoy it, but I am beginning to feel that I need to evaluate other possibilities, possibly using the skills that I've acquired over the last 8 years and applying them in some other area.
My understanding is that the cable industry is still a growing industry. It offers tremendous opportunities. Is it that you might want to look at other aspects of the industry as opposed to what you've done?
That's interesting that you say that because I've not completely dismissed that.
Oh, okay.
Not completely. Somehow, when I'm fantasizing about doing something else, I don't know what the something else is, but I often don't allow myself the chance of really thinking about staying in the industry. I currently am in the operations end of things because it's sales and marketing for a cable company. But I sometimes do think that it could be quite interesting to do something else. Still in cable, but not. I don't know what that means.
Well, I was wondering. No,
but
I'm wondering though, when you're in the sales and marketing aspect of it, I assume that gives you contact with people outside of the industry who are seeking either to present their products.
Oh, you are good.
Cable.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yes.
But, if we pursue that a bit, it means that you have an advantage in that you know some aspects of the industry that maybe someone who does not have the sales marketing dimension might have. Where might that take you within the industry?
Well, you mentioned. Let's see. Because I am in sales and marketing, you're absolutely right. There are people that come to me all the time to present what's happening, say at some of the affiliates, and by the affiliates I mean the Showtimes and HBOs of the world. So these people come to me and present what's happening at their stations or at their channels or whatever. And I do think sometimes that it could be quite a fun job to be part of that and to kind of come in and do that.
Sometimes we really do outgrow positions, and you reach a level at which you feel the need to move on, and that feeling of a need to move on is really more, to a certain extent, more of a feeling of I need either more responsibility or I really need to deal with some other types of individuals in different kinds of positions.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that, yes, I think there is a part of that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As I said, I think I enjoy it for the most part, and I could be very content there for the next X number of years. And I think that what I'm trying to help myself do is not get too comfortable. I am comfortable now, but I really don't want to vegetate.
Sure,
and,
of course.
And I don't see any growth available at this point. Any continuing growth. I think that the growth has happened, and it's been good. But I don't see the next step readily available currently.
What would happen if you were to go in the next few days and say, look for opportunities to talk with people in other levels of management? And I'm thinking of senior level managers.
At my present place? The problem with my present place is that there are only two other steps for me to go to at this point. So it's not as though there is some long path. And I think at this point I'm beginning to feel that I need something new, and so I don't necessarily want to be there anymore. If that makes sense, because I guess I'm getting back to that thing about comfort and being content, and I'm very content. But I say to myself, well, wait a minute, I'm too young or I'm too something to be that content, and I should shake things up. I don't want to be that safe, and so I need to do something to kind of.
What about the networks?
Yeah, I think I always considered myself when I was in college, imagining that would be quite an exciting, just to be able to say that you worked for a network would have been cool to me. But I often think that part of it is that my personality and my natural way of doing things, I think, is such that I'm not especially competitive. I think that what was not attractive to me about working in the networks is that I somehow envision lots of stress and chaos and craziness in any kind of high pressure network kind of job. I don't know this. This is just my speculation.
Let's pause for just a moment and go back and sort of pull some of this together. Could you share with me sort of some ideas about your skills? What types of things do you do well? And really, what kind of person are you?
I think that skills are very difficult for me to pinpoint. I have lots of skills, but for me to say them, sometimes it's hard for me to think about them. But I do have skills. Some of my skills, I think, would include the fact that I'm very analytical, and I think that people find me a person who I'm known to be a very good listener, and my employees, I think, feel for the most part they're very fortunate to have me as a boss, because I do listen well. I encourage lots of communication between my employees and myself and the employees.
So that if we were to look at your day-to-day responsibilities now, I think we might find a whole range of things that you do well.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Okay.
I think so.
Yes.
But they're hard to pinpoint. It's funny. It's funny when you say skills. I always find it very difficult to think about my skills and to be able to verbalize what they are.
Sure.
Though I know they exist.
Sure, sure. Of course. Well, let's talk a little bit about temperament.
Temperament.
Because early on you said, I'm not sure I could deal with chaos.
Yeah, you picked up on that.
And for some people, chaos is wonderful because it's an opportunity to sort it out and make some sense of chaos. But chaos bothers you.
It's very important to me to be in an environment that is not high pressure.
So do you sense that you're imposing that same kind of need on your career exploration at this point? I mean, I sense that you're saying that I really want this career exploration to move along without the uncertainty.
This is very perceptive of you. I would say that that's absolutely true. And I think that part of my career exploration has been stunted by the fact that everything that I do has to be done very slowly, and I have to think about it, and I have to, as I said, I first started thinking about maybe doing a different kind of career thing about 1.5 years ago. But it's taken me from that point until now to really begin to even talk about it.
So now, and please understand that I'm not suggesting that there's anything wrong with this approach, because I think I want to be certain that I'm not giving the impression that there's anything wrong about being careful.
I think we're just stating the facts. I think on some level, as I say, I don't go for a pressure cooker kind of atmosphere, but at the same time, I can also state emphatically that I know that I'm very good at, given in certain situations, I can calm things right down, and I enjoy that, and I get great satisfaction from it. So it's kind of a there's a thin line there somewhere, and I don't know where I am in there, but yes, things can be very. See, there's a difference between pressure and excitement, and I don't know what that is, but yes, there's a difference, and sometimes things are exciting, but.
Sounds like a manager to me.
I do. That's what I do, and I do it well. And that portion of my work, I do like a great deal. I really do.
If I were to suggest, for example, that you consider the possibility of an MBA or whatever the professional degree, but this is sort of way out there. But let's try.
Okay.
Let's sort of talk a little bit about it. And not necessarily the professional degree, but maybe the professional degree, with the idea that you would assume upper level management type of thing. Where are you?
Where am I? This is a question. I recently, about the same time that I began to think that I might be wanting to do something different, about 1.5 years ago, I investigated a graduate program in something called communications management, which at the time was promoted to me as being the thing for people that didn't really want to do an MBA, but they wanted to do something. Sort of along those lines. And I took several classes because the program was set up so that you could take a number of classes before formally applying. And I did do that. And then I thought, I don't really know if this is what I want to do. And now I start thinking about, well, that was dumb. I should have just done it and continued with it. And I didn't. So I did my 2 classes, and then when it was time to do the formal application, I thought, I think that's too much of a commitment or something. So I didn't do it.
But then you had not really begun this process of exploration.
No, it's funny. I hadn't done that at this point. So but it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it was around the same time that I was beginning to think that I knew that it was time for me to stir things up. And so maybe in stirring things up, I thought, well, one answer is that I could go to school. So I kind of explored that, and then decided, well, gee, this is not quite exactly what I want. And I still do think that going to school could always be good, because I don't know, that seems attractive to me.
But let's take another sort of turn,
okay.
twist and turn here.
I'm with you.
Geographically.
Okay.
You're committed to Boston, or are you?
That is certainly a consideration. I very much am interested in travel.
Yes.
And I travel for my own pleasure because I like to travel, and I travel internationally as much as I can because I'm very interested in that.
Yes.
Boston has been my home for the bulk of my adult life.
Yes.
And it's funny because I've been to China, I go to all kinds of places, but I always come back to Boston, and Boston is my home. But recently, as I am trying to be open to all kinds of things, I think, sure, I could relocate someplace. People relocate for their work all the time. I would have no problem with that.
Occasionally, it allows perspective to move away from the environment, which I think you said earlier, one of the things that concerns you is the fact that you might be getting comfortable and you do not want to be comfortable in your work. I'm wondering if the environment is so comfortable and so supportive and so wonderful that can somehow also lull one into feeling this is it. Whereas there's really so much more out there.
You're really on you're on the right track. I think that's absolutely correct. I'm wondering if you see any kind of is there anything that you see developing here in terms of is there any kind of pattern or can we maybe put all of this to use and figure out some kind of what I think I really want to be finding is direction. And I think I do very well when I have a goal in front of me sometimes. But it's been a while since I've had a goal or since I've chosen to set a goal for myself.
Right.
So I want a new goal. And I'm wondering if you are seeing anything or beginning to...
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm seeing a number of patterns emerge.
Okay.
But these are patterns, and I present them not so much as final...
Good, that's fine.
Directions, but more patterns, if you will. There are things that are happening in a number of areas. First and foremost, I think you've given a lot of thought to who you are and what interests you and what you would like to be about. But I'm not certain that you've made that next step, which is to say, now, given some ideal settings, what would I like to do with that information? So while I hear you saying I'm certainly interested in order, direction, and I want to use my analytical skills, my interpersonal skills, I wonder if there is a point at which you might not want to use the old paper pencil method of jotting those down and actually allowing yourself the freedom to take them the next step and say, now, given my interest in problem solving, what kinds of situations are there for me to use this type of skill? So that's one thing. I think there's a need maybe to write some things down, analyze them. Secondly, I think one part of what you've said about your flexibility geographically is probably also true in other areas of your life, in that I think you're probably flexible with regard to different kinds of careers. And I'm wondering if you have looked at things that are related to the cable industry or the communications. That is, have you taken it a step further? Have you looked at advertising? Have you looked at public relations? Have you looked at the music industry? Have you looked at actually being on-camera person for television? Or have you allowed yourself to do the same kind of exploration that we've done geographically? So that's the second thing. And I mean, I put it in the form of a question because I think it would be a very interesting line for us to take. later on. That is to say, let's try to generate some options here. Okay, so that's the second thing. Third thing, and I promise you I will stop here.
No,
but the third item is we have not talked about values. We have touched upon them. What is really important to you? You've said it's important. Boston is important to you. Place is important to you. But I wonder what other kinds of things are important to you and impact on the decision-making processes that you're going through. Okay, well, let's proceed with the second of the items, which is let's generate some ideas. Let's look at what you've done and then talk about options that you might do.
As I said, I have somewhat considered other cable-related things in terms of working with one of the affiliates instead of working on the operations end. A lot of people that I was in school with were considering careers in the news in one form or another.
Yes.
That has never been attractive to me at all.
Okay.
Because it's not creative enough, and news is too factual. And I think that one of the things that I like and that I look forward to, it has to do with more creative things. Yes. So it's sort of like writing fiction, writing nonfiction. I would much prefer to write something that is fictional.
It's possible to take the creativity that you have, your interpersonal skills, to take your organization, your leadership, your ability to articulate ideas, put all of that together and create something else, as opposed to trying to fit who you are into something that already exists. And that's very scary, because it's not out there, it doesn't exist. Well, and particularly those people who say, well, what do you want to do? Well, I really do not know at this point, but I'm trying to sort out all of this. That can be very unsettling, but I think it can also be very exciting.
I agree with you. I think that I look at it that way.
If you could go out now and do whatever you wanted to do, what would it be? What would you do?
One thing is, I had a great job in college as doing an internship when I was in school, where I worked for a television talk show, and I assisted the producers of that program. That was a great job, and if that had turned into a real job at that point, I'm sure I'd be hanging out there today or hanging out some other place doing that. That was a very exciting thing to me, and I thought that really would be one area that I could excel. I also think that I could possibly, I don't exactly know what this means, but I've been very intrigued by people that put on that work on putting on any kind of event like the Olympics or just some big event. Not even necessarily big, but
well, I think that's excellent. Let's pause
you.
there. I know that you're
nice
feeling a little bit
you.
uneasy, but
Yes.
about it. Before we leave that, though, if we might just think a little bit about what it is that blocks that kind of. I mean, there's a. Can you identify things that can?
I've always been very envious of people that know from very early on what they want to be in life, or it's not a matter of being comfortable with yourself and knowing
Yes.
who you are, because I feel like, yes, I'm comfortable with myself and I know who I am. So that so it's not a matter of that. It really has to do specifically with people that know all I want to do in life is be a doctor. All I want to be in life is a dog catcher, whatever it might be.
Sure.
I really wish that I could be like that, but I've never been like that because I think that there's so many things that are interesting to me, and so I really am sorry that I'm not more like that, and I'm sorry that something didn't hit me over the head when I was 7 and tell me you really want to be a judge or you really want to be a fire chief, or whatever it might have been.
And yet it really is okay to be.
It is okay, and I also realize I think that there are very few people that actually happens to. Isn't that right?
Very few people. And most of us, most people also will do a variety of things. Sure, there are those people who know from birth that they want to be a lawyer, but there aren't. I mean, that does not mean that it's not okay to be undecided, to explore and experiment with a variety of options, to move kind of serendipitously.
Life is serendipitous.
It is.
It really is. I
for
understand
many
that.
people.
Yeah.
And,
For me.
for me also. For many of us. And if you would allow yourself to be serendipitous and sort of accept the fact that it is okay. It really is. Okay, now, we're going to talk a little bit about values, because that was something that I sensed might be an important part of this. What is important to you at this point in your life?
In terms of my career development, I would say that it's important to me that whatever I'm doing is making a, I don't want to say making a difference, sounds very cliche, but I would say that I'm helping someone in some way, or if not helping them in the broad scheme, but also or helping them to enjoy something, to be pleased, to have some kind of pleasure, or so in some way I like to think of myself in being in a position to help someone, either one way or the other. I think that it's important for me at this point to feel that whatever I'm doing is allowing me it's affording me the luxury to be able to be comfortable financially, independent of another person.
Sure.
That doesn't necessarily mean that I feel that I have to aspire to be a Mr. Trump or something like that, but I think that it means that I have to be able to take care of myself, and do so independently, and also be able to do the kinds of things that I like to do, which are, I like to, as I said, I like to travel, and I like to be able to do that every so often, and that kind of thing. Let's see, I think it's very important to me to, I mentioned helping people, but I also think that that in terms of values, it's important for me not to be doing something as a complete solo act. I don't want to be doing something on my own, so I don't wish to have a job as a research librarian where I'm by myself 8 hours a day or something like that. So it's important to me to be around other people and to have contact with other people.
What type of timetable have you set for yourself, or for the decisions that you're going to make?
I have not chosen to put a time limit on at this point, and I like that. But then again, that means perhaps it could drag on for years. But I think that things are done in the time that they are meant to be done. Sure. So I've not been deadline.
So there really isn't any internal pressure.
No, I have no internal pressure.
To decide at this point. Well, let's think for a moment. No, I know this might sound a bit obvious, but I'll say it anyway.
Go ahead.
I mean, if you were to identify the decisions that you feel you would like to make at this point, what are they?
The decision that I would like to make right now is figuring out exactly what area my move will take me. Not necessarily what the actual job will be or where I have to be geographically or anything like that, but it does mean that what I'm looking for in terms of a goal is discovering what it is that I need to be working toward.
Okay, so that's one decision that you feel you would like to make. There is and again, you've said there's no internal pressure to make this decision, but that's something that you would like to do. Is there another decision that you feel you would like to make at this point?
Do I get a sense of perhaps there is, but I'm just not picking up on it? Do you sense another decision?
I do sense another decision. I sense a kind of personal need to get on with.
Maybe, absolutely. Yes, maybe I'm thinking that's a given, but you're absolutely right. That's right.
Yeah.
It would help me personally if I did, because you're absolutely correct that I have been, as I said, sort of dragging this along for at least a year and a half. So yes, there would be some real positive development and growth if I did get to the point that I could.
Yes, and again, it can be very comfortable to postpone the decision, because in the process of postponing it, you're buying time.
Talk about a lot of time.
We could buy an awful lot of time that way, and we can also avoid actually doing this when indeed this works very well, because you can always say, I'm looking at a variety of options at this point.
That's true.
As opposed to, well, I'm looking at a variety of options at this point. However, I'm also exploring this possibility or this possibility. So, while, and again, please correct me if I'm not reading.
I will, but I don't think you're reading wrong.
That, in a sense, as difficult as it might be, there are some advantages personally, sort of internally, for saying, okay,
let's get on with it. Yeah,
let's get on with it.
That's true. There would be some great self-satisfaction, I think, and also just when you have things kind of hanging over your head and a little bit of pressure on your shoulders, thinking, am I any closer, or am I? And as I said, I think I really do better when I have some kind of goal set in front of me, and it's been a while since I've allowed myself to have a goal. So.
Okay. Let me ask a related question then. How much power and control do you feel you have over your life at this point to make the decisions that you want to make? If you decide at this point that you want to go to San Francisco, can you?
The limitation, to be honest with you, is only limitations that I've put on myself. There is nothing that would be prohibiting me in terms of other people, or in terms of I can't think of any kind of overwhelming problem that I would have other than what I'm putting on myself. So I believe that I'm very empowered right now, if I would allow myself to be.
On the one hand, you're certainly feeling this personal empowerment, but I'm not certain that that carries over in terms of the career exploration. Does it?
Well, I have to say that you certainly are giving me food for thought.
Okay.
Questions I don't have obvious responses to. This is
by all means, and I really do not want to make you uncomfortable.
Oh no, I'm not uncomfortable at all. But it's very it's very curious, you know, the things that you're...
Okay. I also think what we've done is it might be useful also to look at options out there more carefully, more broadly, and also I think we talked a little bit about creating options that might not feel very comfortable at this point, but maybe 2 or 3 days from now, a month from now, that might be something that will surface as an option. If I had the option to create something for myself, what would I do? But
yes, I was stumped on that one, I remember now.
Yeah, but still, we're asking you to do that on the spot, and I think that type of thing takes some time and some thought. We have also looked at decision making. We've talked a little bit about timeline.
Do you think that it's more important to have a timeline and to have a deadline? I sort of get the impression that through our discussion that perhaps it would be in my best interest to put a deadline in front of myself in some way, shape, or form.
I would be very uncomfortable if it were a firm deadline that sets you to something and you don't reach it and you become frustrated and say, you know, forget about it, this isn't working. I'd rather see, I would encourage, because I think of just from talking with you, I would encourage a more tentative approach. Set it, but recognize that it can change. Given your interests, it might need to be revised, but set it nonetheless. The other thing that I would like to add is I'm very, very impressed by the thoughtfulness and the very analytical way in which you were going about this.
It's almost too analytical, isn't it?
Well, no, because I think that's also an important stage for you personally, that you're looking at this in ways that will allow you to plan because you've thought about it very carefully.
Yes.
One of the things that I would want to do is move from where we are today and say, now that we have a perspective or the rudiments of a perspective, now what do I do with all of this? And where do I go with this? And how do I get the specifics to make the perspective real? I think it would be terrific if you were able to do some informational interviewing at this point, to get out and talk with some people who are doing things that might be of interest to you, not only in media, because I think if we continue to work within media, that's going to be rather restrictive at this point. I would like to see you talk with some people who are involved in international affairs, stateside, for example. And there are lots of people in Cambridge and Boston who are doing unusual things and would be more than happy to spend some time talking with you about what they do, and even generate ideas and suggestions of things that you might consider in order to expand this notion. So that's the first thing. Again, it's informational interviewing, but it's interviewing within a wider perspective of options, as opposed to limiting this to cable alone.
Yes.
That's one thing.
I'm big on that. I absolutely agree.
Okay, and then secondly, I think within cable itself, there are tremendous opportunities that might not be options because you've not allowed yourself to think of them. And I think you have lots of skills and lots of interests, and I think those need to be explored. So while we're looking outside of cable, we also need to look within cable. So we're doing a kind of broad perspective, but a very specific perspective also. Thirdly, I think it would be very, very useful to pick up on something that I suggested earlier, and that is maybe sitting down and just writing down all of these random things that have come as a part of this exercise. And finally, I think it would be very, very useful to revise your resume to reflect some of the things that we have talked about, but also some of the things that you've talked about with other counselors. Again, I think it would be useful if you select an objective or a particular program and direct the resume toward that.
Yeah. I'll be happy to do that.
Terrific.
Thank you.
This has been a great experience.
Lots of food for thought.
Good.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
My session with A.C. Jackson, my first thought is to say that it was very delightful because I felt an immediate level of comfort with him. He was extremely caring. I think that he was such a gentle person. I felt as if I had known him, and I had never met him before, but he had such a level of comfort that just oozed out of him. He made me really think about what's important and my own ideas about what's important. I felt very challenged by him in some ways. He was very probing in almost a psychological way, but at the same time he was very sensitive to what I said. He listened to me very carefully. And I felt that his responses to me were quite analytical. Again, with that very caring and sensitive angle that he would just naturally evoke because he is the way he is. I think that he gave me steps to follow. He really gave me a lot to think about. And I enjoyed the session very much.
The next counselor is Barbara Scher, a career counselor with a practice in New York City and the author of Wishcraft, How to Get What You Really Want.
Hi, I'm Barbara Scher.
Barbara Scher, I'm Dee Dee Pierce.
How do you do? Tell me what the problem is. Why are you seeing a career counselor?
The problem is I'm in a position right now that I like very much. But I'm with a company that I've been with since I graduated from college, and that's now 8 years ago. And I've enjoyed it a lot, but I'm beginning to feel as though there must be something else out there for me, and I never went through the experience of really investigating possibilities for career options. At the time that I graduated from college with a background in communications, I was told the cable television industry was the industry to get into, and I did. And it's been very exciting and very fun, but now I'm beginning to think that there are other things that I could be doing, and the skills that I've acquired over the years, I'm beginning to feel that I could possibly use in some other area.
What do you exactly, well, let me ask you this. What do you do there that you like best?
What I like best in terms of my position is my direct relationship with the people that I work with. I supervise a group of people, and I like the day-to-day management of that and of those people. And I like the interactions that I have with them. I like sitting down and meeting with them and doing constructive criticism on our departments.
So you like people interaction, you like that kind of thing. Is that your favorite thing?
I would say that if I really considered it, yes, that would be my favorite aspect of the job.
If you could keep this job and they tripled your salary, right, and you could change it in any way you wanted, but you stayed right where you were, what would you, I mean, anyway, the boss said, I want you to have anything you want in the world, what would it be? You'd see people more, and what would you do less?
I would do less computer reporting. I do a lot of statistical reports right now, and I push papers around my desk and I look at different statistics.
If you could, money's not going to be the issue. You're going to make a vast sum of money at this job and every other job you go to. I just want money not to be an issue. You're going to make plenty of dough. All right. What I do want to hear from you is, though, if you take the thing you liked best, which is that you like working with people, and increase that. If you took the thing you liked least, which is working with the statistics in the computer, and you eliminated that, let's just say that the boss gave you the world's most brilliant assistant, like radar, right, who came up and reported everything to you, would your job then be perfect, or would you like to change something else about it?
I think that I would indeed still want to change something about it. I do think that the bottom line is that I feel like I've almost outworn my welcome, if that makes any sense. I just feel that it's time for me to make a move.
In other words, even with an ideal work situation and even with plenty of money, you're in the mood to go. So what you're saying...
I think I'm getting itchy to make a move because I've been there since I graduated from college, and I feel like I've not had
you haven't had a chance to look at the world yet?
Sort of.
Okay.
A little bit.
Let me give you a magic wand.
Okay.
All right?
This is very fun.
Yes, I'm glad. That's what I'm hoping. You're 5 people. I'm going to clone you.
Okay.
Zap. When I'm finished, you're going to be 5 people. And each one of you is going to get to go into a different direction. You're going to get all the experience you want. You're going to be able to get any job you want. The pay will always be good, all right? And the working conditions will be acceptable, very acceptable. What would person number 1 like to try? You can do it all this year. Everywhere you go, they'll hire you.
Person number 1 would possibly do something along the lines of something international. I don't know in what way that
includes travel or centered here and just
person number 1 doesn't know, but I'm interested in international things, and I'm personally interested in travel.
Okay.
So person number 1 in some way, shape, or form perhaps would be able to travel,
right.
preferably internationally.
Okay.
I've become interested in the possibility of doing something along the lines of I want to say events planning and things like that. Now I don't really know what that entails, but
doesn't matter.
But that has
But what do you
become,
think of when you think of it?
You know what I think of? I think of all kinds of exciting events that I could be part of and make people excited to be around. I'm interested in the arts.
What aspect?
And I like cultural activities. I like the theater. I like dance. I like going to museums. So sometimes I think that could be another direction that I would go into. So I suppose person number 3 could somehow be involved in that. Now I don't know in what capacity. I just think
not as a painter
somehow.
or a dancer, but as an administrator or a publicist or something.
Something along those lines that would incorporate those areas.
These are exciting. These are nice.
I think so.
Person number 4?
Person number 4, periodically I've thought about things like public relations and or advertising kinds of things, but I actually don't think that, sometimes I don't think that my own personality would fit with that very well, because I don't know, somehow I imagine people that are in that area are much more assertive than I am, and I think that I'm not basically a very
maybe you, this
aggressive
is magic,
kind
so
of.
maybe we could have you be involved with with ideas. Maybe you could create an entire marketing or PR program.
I think that I would like to be involved in that kind of thing, and that's somehow why I've begun to think that events planning might somehow incorporate that as well. Now, I don't know this, and I've only just begun to think about that particular area.
Well, it's too soon to know things.
Okay, good.
While you're just scanning around, you don't want too much information, because we're searching for taste now.
Okay.
Personal preference and taste. And one of the reasons I'm really determined to do that with you is because no matter how perfect we make, I've already tracked down that it's not the paycheck at this job, it's not the people at this job, and it's not the work at this job that's bothering you. So I know that you're really scanning for something you love that's going to make you feel.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I don't want any information.
Because I do like all those things.
Exactly.
I do like my job, and I am not bothered with the paycheck, and I'm not bothered with the people. I enjoy all of those things, which I think makes my situation kind of unique, because I'm a happy person with my current situation.
But I'm glad, because there are a lot of people who are in your position, and I hardly ever get to interview them, and people out there, you're in a difficult position.
Thank you.
Well, you really are. You know, when you're in a job that's absolutely rotten and is taking the spirit out of you, you know you've got to get out of it, and you're really driven to get out of it. To walk away from something that's good is a little scary because you're afraid you're going to live to regret it. You're going to walk into a job that's horrible, or you're going to be sorry. So that's probably why you didn't leave after 4 years. And 5 and 6. Now it's gotten to be 8, and I can tell you're feeling like you're going to get stuck in a corner and never shine your light.
That's exactly right. And I had for a while been progressing very nicely in the company, and I had made steps that encouraged me to be there. But now I feel like I've been there, and I don't see the next step in the horizon anytime soon. So therefore, I'm even more anxious to start feeling
sure.
like maybe
And,
it's time
and
to-
ordinarily, I would check this one out really carefully. That is, the kinds of things I check, and I kind of have now, because I believe you, are, is there some personal issue going on at work? Is there somebody driving you crazy? Are they underpaying you for overwork? These things often happen, and then what happens is that isn't that they wanted to leave the job, they just don't want to admit that they've become unhappy there for reasons not of their own. I don't think that's your case. I hear you. Everything's okay, and you don't want to go to your grave sitting at that desk.
Yes.
So that's a real, I think everybody's got a balance between a need for safety and a need for adventure.
Yes, yes.
And if you get too much of one, you need the other, and you've had too much safety. So.
That's really funny that you say that, because I think that that's exactly right. I've recently I've used those same words in that I feel too comfortable, and I'm too young to be too comfortable, and I don't have anything restricting me to just do something completely different and be kind of adventurous and just.
You need some action.
But I need to be pushed to go out there, because right now I do feel rather cocoon-like, and I'm.
There's a new book out. I read about it in the New York Times Book Review. It's called Gossip.
Oh.
And so they quoted one thing. It said one of their friends had just quit a job in a panic of boredom.
Oh, I
And
like that.
love that.
I like that.
We have to get to person number 5.
Oh, there's still person
Person
number
number
5?
1 was international. Person or events planning. Personal number 2 was international. Personal number 3 was something waking people up about things important, or maybe that was still personal.
I don't.
Then we
yes,
had the
they're all
arts.
meshing.
And we had the arts, and we've got one person left. We're roughly 3 or 4 people now.
That's boy.
That's a tough one. All the others get to do. Everybody's doing it. You don't have to choose between them. All these people are doing what you wanted, and there's a 5th you who gets to do something else.
Well, whatever it is, it's very exciting. So it's got to be something exciting.
Well, to
That
some
number
people,
5
exciting is skydiving, not to me.
No, that's
Right? Okay, not to me. To me, it would be exciting to really learn Latin. Okay, so what would be exciting for you?
exciting.
You got a magic
means-
wand now.
Exciting means that I would be meeting lots of different people all the time. That's one criteria.
What kind?
What kind
Make
of
it
people?
perfect. Yeah, make it perfect. Make yourself happy.
It would be people. Gosh, that's really tough.
Famous people.
Oh, that's
or
good,
Brilliant
sure.
people, or creative
Sure.
people, or
All of that.
Rich people, or movie stars, or
That's it. That's person number 5. Gets to do all that.
gets to meet all those people.
Yes, it would just. Yeah, I would really like that.
Somebody who runs a team of
Person
oxen
number
in
5?
Alaska.
No,
Okay. Okay. Now, why not? Why yes? Why no? What's your distinguishing?
I'm definitely not an oxen person.
What are you not? No. What do you mean you're not an oxen person? You're not a farm person?
No,
That you like
can't do
glamour
it.
more
Oh,
than?
very much
Well,
so.
I'm glad I asked.
Oh yes, you did.
Okay.
Oh yes, I would like that.
Okay, so some people who are famous and brilliant and glamorous, right? With the 5th
Boy, that-
person might associate with.
Oh sure, in some way, but it can't be anything too fluff. But yes,
Not
person
Hollywood,
number-
but
Not necess-
more
no, Hollywood,
more
no.
substantial than that, but
More
exciting.
substantial, yeah.
Okay, well your eyes really lit up twice. You liked everything, but 2 things lit your eyes up in it, and it caught
Okay.
caught my attention. This is one.
And what was the other?
The other had to do with waking people up to something that was important in some kind of grand forum. That is, in some kind of international events planning way, doing something that helped people wake up to something. Your eyes lit up. You really got into that one.
I don't exactly know what that means either. I have no idea.
But I'm
whether
right,
that's,
though, right?
But I think that I think it is important.
Okay, now I want to do something. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to design a job for you, and you tell me. It may not seem
Okay,
possible to you,
I'll-
but it doesn't matter whether it seems
That's okay.
possible or not.
I'm going with you.
Strategies are designed to
Okay.
make things happen.
Okay.
Right now we're in a formative stage.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to design a job for you, and I want you to tell me what you like about it and what you don't like
Okay.
about it. Okay. So we've got your. You're independent, but you have a staff, and you're funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. So you have funding, you have plenty of money. And it is your job to, you also have connections with every television station in Europe and the Near East and Eastern Europe. Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Near East. And they're all, and you, so you've got plenty of money behind you, and what you're going to do is you have a cause, and that cause is ecology. And, no, wrong. That cause is helping small people become entrepreneurs in countries that are no longer communist, and they don't know how to do it. They don't have the entrepreneurial spirit. Small business people, teeny kitchen table, okay? And what you're going to do is go to every country, and you're going to have a television show. First, you're going to call up all the important people in that range, both in the government and wealthy people, the Rothschilds, the important people in all these different countries. You're going to get on television with them, and you're going to interview them and talk to them and pitch this whole project, which is how to get these workshops started that are going to help everybody learn how to have a home business and develop the American entrepreneurial spirit. And you will travel from one country to another. And you'll be written up in Time magazine, and so will they. All right? That's your job. The job lasts 5 years, at which point you'll get to leave it and do something else. But that's not terribly important. Tell me, what do you like about that job, and what do you not like about
it? What I like about that job is the fact that I would obviously be getting to travel.
Mm-hmm.
I would have somewhat of a problem, one thing that you said, I took notice of, which was something about the American entrepreneurial style, or I don't know if you used the word style,
I did.
but I think it was American entrepreneurial style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a part of me would not necessarily feel comfortable going and promoting something that was kind of like, as though I, coming as an American, would say, okay, this is the way that you should be doing it because in America we do it this way.
Right.
So I have a problem
Gotcha.
with that.
Gotcha.
And I would prefer to not have it be with that sort of angle.
Right.
And
Anything
it
else?
probably would not be, if it was, okay, all right, if I was really going to get into this, I would say that it probably would not be something that would be about entrepreneurial.
Okay.
It wouldn't be that end of things.
That's fine.
So we would change perspectives there as well.
Let me change it now.
Okay.
Okay.
The
No, I'm going to keep
scenario
doing
changes,
it. I'm
okay.
Gonna, no, this is
Okay.
this is called a self-correcting
Okay.
scenario. Okay, same thing. Rockefellers are behind you. You're
Yep.
traveling. You've got all the television connections, all the famous people connections, right? I've still got you in Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Near East, quite arbitrarily. You can change that,
Okay.
but you have to tell me if you want to change it. And what you're going to be doing is discovering and bringing to light poets and writers in every one of those countries who have simply never been known to the world. And you're going to bring, and painters, and choreographers, and
That sounds very
playwrights.
intriguing.
Okay?
That sounds very
You're
intriguing.
going to wake the world up to all this unknown art that's out there. You're going to encourage national pride, and you're going to see if you can get funding for all those people, all right?
That sounds very that sounds very intriguing to me. This is really it's very hard to fantasize like this. This is very
Why?
Why is it hard? I guess because in thinking about changing careers and changing jobs, when I think about it, I must not really allow myself the option of going completely hog wild and thinking about any possibility at all.
Exactly.
So
That's what I
it's-
noticed when you were describing
It's very
it.
hard for me to.
One of the reasons I told you first to adjust your job is because you were thinking very small.
Yes, I have been.
And when adjusting your job didn't do the trick, I knew we were going to have to stretch you out.
Yeah.
We can come back from there, but I know it's hard. I know it's hard for you. But I'll help you with this last question.
Okay.
You want to do some good in the world, so I suggest you go to a country that suffers from its artists not being known. So find some Asia country that you think is suffering from its artists not being known. That means you don't have to pick Japan, which is doing fine.
I don't know if I would necessarily say that, because I think that artists are not being known. You can say anywhere in the world you could say that, because artists in general are hiding in lofts or dancing to them for themselves or whatever it is, anywhere in the world.
What
so I don't
that
necessarily
indicates
think
to me
that
is that, number one, you really do know what you're talking about. You don't just happen to like to go to plays. You think about artists.
I've traveled a great deal as well, and
have you?
I've traveled all over the world.
You have?
Yes,
I'm glad I asked. Where have you been?
I took a year off in college and I went around the world.
Really?
Yes. Alone, when I was 19.
Really? Which places did you like? With backpack and just
catch
can?
No.
Group people?
No, I was by myself, but I was not.
You had some money?
Yes, I had money.
And you just would plop down in a town and go check it out?
Actually, I had an itinerary when I went, so I knew I did have a plan of action.
And what was your plan of action? What was the interest for you?
The interest was that it was an opportunity for me to see the world, and my family felt that
but
as
any
part of my
given
education,
town that you'd be in, what would you do? Would you hit the bars?
Oh.
Would you go to the health spas?
It actually turned out that many of the places that I went, I was very fortunate because I knew many people in many of the places that I went.
What did you ask them to show you? Just their homes, or the art galleries, or the
fishing, we would see
or
all
the
kinds
skiing?
of things. It just would depend on where I was. And sometimes I would get off of an airplane in Bombay or something, and there would be people there to meet me that I did not expect to see, and I would, and I did not stay with these people, but I was
just you just loved it. You love what's new, don't you?
I do, and that was very exciting. And
okay, let's get your career ready.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Since you clearly have to. Here's what we've decided you'd be happy doing, at least we think, right? At least we think right now, okay? You'd be happy promoting artists in other countries. So the first thing I would suggest you do is hook up with a fundraiser, because you don't want to raise the funds. Do you have any idea how you could hook up with a fundraiser? Who does that? Do you have any
I have no clue. I have no clue.
You wouldn't know how to, and you wouldn't know how to ask. Okay, then the first thing, okay, so the very first thing you're going to do when you leave here is call 2 or 3 friends, just buddies. Do you have 2 or 3 buddies?
Oh, I have lots of buddies.
Sort of thought so. And you're going to get together and you're going to have a brainstorming party. Maybe 5, tell them to bring friends, maybe 10 people, right? Just a party. At a brainstorming party, everybody brings food so that you are not a hostess, and everybody feels like they own the place. And they sit down on the floor, and you say, number 1, I've decided, and I have no idea how to do it, that I'm going to go around the world promoting unknown artists, and I'm going to meet them and talk to them and go in their galleries. I want a camera crew with me. There are people who are traveling the world studying primitive tribes. I want to travel the world and study artists. I need money for it, and I do not want to raise the funds. Does anybody have any ideas on where I can find a fundraiser? Does anybody know anybody who works for anybody who has any money? That's what a brainstorming is. And you just write down everything they say, and everybody starts pumping you for questions, and pretty soon somebody knows somebody who's an artist in Bombay, and pretty soon there's a dancer in West Germany, and pretty soon you have places to stay, and pretty soon you've got a project going, okay? Now, today is Monday. I want you to have that party set up Friday night. I'm not kidding. Will you do it?
Friday night.
Friday night. A couple friends over.
I have a few friends that I could call.
You didn't answer me though, did you? Scary, huh?
Somewhat, but I like the idea of the brainstorming, because I feel that would also promote new ideas, and this kind of concept could become more defined, because
what we're doing is we're doing pie in the sky.
Yes.
It's based on taste, it's based on passion, but it's not based on information. Okay?
Yes.
And that's the first step. That's what's important, especially for somebody in your position who wants to be excited by what she's doing. So we went for excitement first. Now we gather data. The goal of every brainstorming session, and now I want you to turn your life into a brainstorming session, is to mention this project as often as you can until somebody says, you know, I know somebody who's let me make a phone call. I want to see if and get every name and call everybody and say, I heard that you're connected with a new television station in Bulgaria that's just getting its start. I'm interested in promoting artists and I'm trying to get some funding. What's happening with you? What are you guys up to? And just talk to everybody. Make the next, don't leave your job, don't quit your job, don't even tell them at your job, okay? One of the things you said was that you're afraid you're all over the place, right? And that you're uncomfortable with how hard it is for you to focus in. But I just want to say something for you and for anybody, which is that you're supposed to be all over the place. If you knew what you were doing, if you were focused, you wouldn't be seeing a career counselor. It's your job to be all over the place, and it's my job to listen to you as if I were working for the Kremlin. That's my job. So don't worry about that. You're good. You're answering the questions just the way I need you to.
Okay.
And more than that, your face shows the answers, which is what I'm really looking at. So, all right, so here's what we're talking about. You've got a job that maybe the day-to-day workings of it don't exactly bore you, but on a long-term basis, the idea that you'd be there another 15 years is suffocating, right?
Scary.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true, a panic of boredom.
Yes.
Okay. And we've got a fantasy here that you've been brave enough to dare to think about, even though I know it's hard to think in this peculiar way. When you find out how serious I am, you're really going to panic. What I want you to do is add the project of this fantasy to your life. You get up and you go to work and you come home, and that's your life now with whatever personal life you have. I want you to add this project to it. And this project starts with a brainstorming where you start to get, like, you gather in the most informal way, forget libraries, talking to people. You just network like crazy. Hi, what are you doing? Do you know what I'd like to do, but I don't know how to do it? There's incidentally a very wonderful way to phrase it. If any time you're at a party or just chatting with somebody, you can bring it up at a bus stop.
Oh,
if you say, I have a wish, and here's my obstacle. If you say wish and obstacle, you will find the bus driver giving you advice. If you just say a wish, you will not get advice. So, for example, if you said, I would love to find a way to go around the world and stop in countries and publicize and find out about the artists and let them speak for themselves, country by country. And my problem is, I don't have any money. Or, my problem is, I don't know where to start. Or, my problem is, I don't know any artists in Bulgaria. The minute you say that, everybody's going to start thinking. They're going to say, I think I read a magazine. People can't help it. They cannot help trying to solve problems. We're problem-solving animals. So if you just talk that way as often as possible and carry a notebook and a pencil with you at all times, you're going to have enough material for you to have an anxiety attack and be overwhelmed. But don't worry about it. But we're just doing fantasies now. You aren't signing any contracts.
No.
You aren't quitting any jobs.
That's true.
You aren't investing any money.
No.
You aren't doing anything.
No.
You're just going to have a more interesting life after work and on weekends than you were doing last week. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to start talking to everybody. And they're going to say, oh, I know this great backpack place where you can sleep in the dirt and study artists. And you go, no, I don't want that kind. Right, I don't want that kind, right? But you're going to start, and then you're going to also go to the periodicals index and find out about arts in other countries. Underdeveloped countries, you'll get a better chance to be funded if you go to places. There's no point in going to Paris. There's no point in going to Japan. That's my guess. You might talk to people at your brainstorming who know a lot more than I do. But all kinds of things are going to start happening, and you're going to start tightening. Right now, you're saying, I don't want backpacks, because that's all you can think of. The more you know, the clearer you're going to get about what you don't want.
It sounds, it's, as you say this, it sounds very, I'm very intrigued, and I do have to say, as I talk about this, and I talk about backpacks being like one of the most objectionable parts of this, I think how shallow that sounds and how awful it sounds to be saying I don't want to be in a backpack. But
look, here's the point. There's no point in buying a pair of shoes that are going to hurt your feet. That's not being spoiled. That's just being an individual. Your foot is a certain size, and the only shoe you can buy is the one that's you're going to be able to walk in, and the one that suits your taste. So you're going to be able to look at it. That's who you are. That may look superficial, But the truth of the matter is that in a culture where, like any culture, where it's determined that we can't walk down the streets naked, we can't punch people, we can't sing out loud in the middle of there are a lot of rules.
Yes.
And our individuality expresses itself with our personal taste. There's somebody in there saying, I exist. This is the person who is gifted. This is the person who loves things. This is the person who could put a great deal of passion and be extraordinary, make a great contribution in the right thing. But if you don't listen to your own tastes, that's one of the reasons all of us are all over the board. Because we don't know we're allowed to listen to our tastes. There's nothing superficial about them. They're like a tuning fork. You got to hit it and go, yeah, that worked. That's right. That's the note. That's the note. And when that's the note, you'll be able to work fine. You'll be able to do wonderful stuff. One of the big problems about making decisions is that you don't have any information. You haven't got a lifetime to try everything in the world out, and people won't let you anyway. So where we start is with personal taste, with wishes and dreams, no matter how fantastic they may seem. Then we bring them down to earth by pulling in as many people as possible to come up with ideas. You'll have 15 projects that you don't want or can't do that are so exciting within a month or two if you do this, that you're going to call people to give them away. And you're going to get to know people who will offer you things you couldn't have thought of. The very least thing that's going to happen is you're going to find out things you didn't know in an area that intrigues you,
yes.
that makes your face light up. At a certain point, something's going to come along that's so good that you're going to have to say to your boss, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. Give me somebody I'll train them for 2 weeks. But I'm off to Bombay. I can't turn this down. But you should never leave a job before that point.
Oh, yes.
So this way you've got all the safety you need. You're going to have an enormous amount of fun. Your life's going to get very exciting, which it isn't now. And exciting with an option to move. Well, career-wise, it's not exciting. And exciting with an option that might lead you in a direction that could be exciting. And I guess the thing I want to say to you is that you've got to have an enormous amount of respect for anything that makes you happy. I was watching you, and I'll tell you, I wasn't listening to your words as much as I was watching your face. And when I would say things like, well, how would you like to travel overseas? And you'd go, that would be good. But then when you'd start talking about, what was it? Your face lit up, and you said, oh, I'd like to go, and I'd like to do it, and that one clicked big. If you don't follow that, you'll be in another job just like this one. You can pay your rent and have an exciting life. The ball's rolling. Yeah. No real danger. I know you're a little scared, though.
No.
But there's no real danger of any kind. All you're doing is gathering information in the area of your tastes. You can expect to get very nervous, to be overwhelmed by all the things. People are going to come up with ideas you can't possibly do. They're going to say, well, why don't you call the head of NBC? And you're going to go, you got to figure a tree. They won't talk. The switchboard operator won't talk to me at NBC, right? That's okay. Just write it down and ask them why they're saying it. You don't have to do these things, but they're germs of ideas. You want people to just start pouring out ideas. What happens when they pour out ideas is they buy stock in your dream. They want you to get it. They like it. They'll go home and make phone calls to people they forgot they knew, and they'll come running back. So just get that machinery started and watch your life turn around. It turns out to be the most practical thing in the whole world to follow your tastes and find a way to make them make a living for you, if possible, if that's possible. Because what you love is what you're gifted at. And you're going to find the energy to do what you love. And you're going to excel in it. And you're going to make a mark, and people are going to want to be involved with you if you're doing what you love.
Yes.
If you're doing what you're capable of. This is why I object to searching for skills, to searching for personality types, and to most of the tools of ordinary career counseling. Because we can find out what your skills are, and we can find out what your type is, and we can find out all kinds of things about you. But none of it's very relevant. You can do many things that will never set you on fire. The question is, what are your gifts? And you probably don't know. But I know how to find them. The way you find them is you find out what you love. I promise you, it never fails. You might love 5 things. You might be gifted in 5 things. So don't look for a path. So you just do it. And I would like to hear from you.
I will do that.
Okay, terrific.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this.
Good. It was fun for me,
You're really
too.
fun. Really?
Yeah, I like to get people in hot water.
Yeah, I see you did.
Okay.
That really gave me a lot to think about.
Good.
Barbara Scher's session was very scary for me. Though it was a fun exercise, I felt that I was never really able to be as honest as I would need to be to have something work. It was a very great exercise, and if I was going to do it again, I would know what I would need to do differently, which would be to put some skids on it and say when I felt that things were not moving in the direction that they needed to be. I think that when we got into my fantasizing about the ideal job, I was not able to say, well, you know, that doesn't really sound quite right to me. And I was never really able to tell her what appeared to be wrong with that picture. Though she was giving me the opportunity to do so, I very easily could have said, no, I don't think so, I need to do this. And I'm sure she very willingly would have told me how I could really pinpoint it into something better for myself. But I wasn't able to do that, and I don't know why, other than to say that it was such a unique concept. I just wasn't able to go with the flow. The gist of what Barbara Scher was telling me to do, I think, was to follow your fantasy. And that's a very that's a great concept, because if you're following your fantasy, you're doing what it is that you like. And I think that her point is that you can do that and make money and be enjoying yourself, and it's a great package. So the concept of it, I think, is great. My reaction after seeing the film and having the chance to think about it now that it's been several months, it's funny because there's so many things that came out of it, and it's not as though after having these sessions everyone said, oh, Dee Dee, this is what you should be doing. And if that were the case, then maybe it would just be that much easier for me to say, oh, okay, if everyone agrees, that's what it is, and this is exactly the way that I should be going about getting to that, then it would be that much easier for me. But clearly that's not what happened, and if nothing else, I think that it has given me a tremendous amount to think about, and I really have not, to be honest, been able to fully comprehend everything, even now. I think I have a lot of work to do. I think that I look forward to the work that I have to do. Without realizing it until now, I know that I have begun to put into place many of the concepts and suggestions that were brought out.